You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey all, welcome back to Cards to the Moon, a 5-Card Guys production, and this is episode 18. My name is Clark, and I'm here as always with Hyung and John. So right off the top, Hyung, you sent us that video where one breaker was opening a pack of, I believe it was Bowman Chrome HTA, where there should be 3 Bowman Chrome first autograph cards, and in that pack, the guy who was breaking it, or the guy who was ripping it, got the 2 first prospect autos, but the last one, I believe, was some random football Donruss Optic card.
It was an Optic Hollow. Yeah, that was
Optic Hollow,
wild.
right?
Yeah, I think it was Mikey B Cards and Card Porn. Yeah, Card Porn kind of shared it, and right. Yeah, I don't know. I felt bad because what would you do in that situation as a breaker? Because people are like pointing the finger at you, like, "Yo, what did he just do?"
Yeah.
You know, like this is funny, but yeah. Sorry, go on.
Well, no, I was just gonna ask, what do you think happened there? Like,
well, I was looking into it a bit, and I was just like, this is wild. Like, what really happened? Like, who's at blame here? And a lot of people are saying that Panini and Topps actually share the same packaging facility,
I read that too.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I it could be a genuine mistake, which I highly doubt, or it could have been a big hit that was swapped out. By, you know, and unfortunately, you know, you don't want to think that, but that is a possible scenario as well, right? I'm not going to, you know, blame anybody, but, you know, it was a base card, and then, you know. So, and I've ripped some HTAs. You usually, you know, they're decent. You'll get a hit, right? Shouldn't be 3 base autos, so I think the color's missing there.
Oh, damn. So the hit is missing. The third one's the hit. That's crazy.
Well,
I didn't know that.
I mean, who knows, right? Like, I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
But it's
wild.
Based on the video, a wild story. It's a wild story.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild, for sure. Imagine that happened to one of us.
That'd be, we're fighting.
I know. I don't even know how you would claim that to Bowman and Topps.
Well, good thing it was videotaped at least, right?
I know.
Because it's like, you know, this is a fresh case of 2021 Bowman Chrome, right?
True.
Yeah.
All right, I thought we'd just open up with that because it's kind of funny, kind of wild. But yeah, let's move on then to hobby headlines. John, you brought up to our attention an article in Bloomberg today about Fanatics, which is the company that recently acquired the MLB and NFL player licenses away from Topps and Panini respectively. And the news is that an insider noted Fanatics is now valued at $10.4 billion. Yeah, which is nuts. After going through a $350 million funding round, which involved a few private equity investor types.
Yeah, and that's the Fanatics sports card department. That's not the Fanatics, like the entire entity. It's just the sports card department is valued at 10.4 billion or whatever it is.
Yeah, good clarification for sure. Just their trading card business division, I guess. Yeah. But I thought the more interesting part was this quote from the story. Quote, management plans to build a one-stop shop for sports memorabilia and will add services including financing, grading, and storage, end quote.
Crazy.
So yeah, it looks like they might be disrupting the hobby in more ways than one if everything reported in the story is true. So I thought maybe we could break it down a bit today and get your thoughts on what you think the future of the hobby might look like with this news, if it's true, and how everything could potentially play out. So what's the first thing that's going through your mind when you read that story?
I'm actually in favor of it. I think it's huge disruption, and it seems a little crazy. Like, on the one hand, you don't really want a company to have a monopoly, but on the other hand, like, they're about to disrupt eBay with the financing part. It looks like they're going to get involved in buying and selling. They look like they're going to disrupt PSA and also disrupt things like PWCC Vault. like a one-stop shop.
Right.
And Clark,
Right.
you mentioned this before because you're of the three of us, you're the only one with experience in purchasing, like NFT cards, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that really appealed to me that you mentioned was how easy it is to buy and sell. Like literally you purchase, then you can list on there. There's no packaging or this or that or paying shipping. It literally just listed and it sells and the money's in the bank. And I think that's looks like Fanatics is trying to mimic that business
I see that.
scenario. So for me, I really like that. I think that's going to be amazing for the hobby. But, yeah. Also a little bit scared of the potential monopoly that's about to happen. But yeah, I think my initial impression was I feel like it's great news.
Yeah, no, I agree with John. Like, I think from an investment standpoint, I think it's definitely beneficial. I think having someone with this kind of, big money type player to come in to kind of, it needs a little regulation, I think, and need a little direction because there's a lot of, subjectivity, I think, still going on, and there's a lot of high dollar trades going on based on the subjectivity, right? So for me, from an investment standpoint, I think it's great because it's one of those one step, I guess, back 2 steps forward every time, and it's one of those retracements that we're gonna have to take because the old is just so broken, right? At the end of the day, right? And there needs there's a company who kind of is fast forward thinking and they see the opportunity as well, right? And this, no one could have said 2 years ago that Fanatics would even be in play, nor would be worth north of $10 billion as a trading company. So for me, right, the investment portion is great, but as a hobbyist, I'm telling you, you're just going to be more grumpier and grumpier, right? I know from the collector standpoint, because I see it from both sides, but this is where I keep on saying you got to adapt, or you're not going to enjoy it, essentially, right? But I think like stuff like when you start offering like in-house financing, this is where like it becomes next level stuff, right? Big time money, because this is when people who shouldn't be spending is spending, right? And then you create you get the whole lending involved, and that's a whole different business, right? So I think overall, like John said, it's positive news from an investment standpoint. I'm more assured from an investment standpoint that my future investments are gonna look better based on kind of like this news, right? So for me, it's great news for the investment standpoint. Yeah.
I'm with you guys. I like the investment into the hobby. It's a huge amount of money that can only bring the hobby up. Of course, there'll be challenges in a lot of ways, and I want to get into some of those potential challenges. And one of them is the future of local card shops. If you think of Fanatics as a one-stop shop and you could get everything through Fanatics, through their website, because they're dominating the website space right now, what do you think it'll do to all the LCS? Like, do you think we start seeing a decline 2.0, you know what I mean? When the junk wax era, after that, the card shops start to disappear one by one. Or do you think Fanatics works out a distribution deal? Do they even need to? I don't know. Like, what do you guys think?
Go
yeah,
ahead.
like I don't imagine them working out a distribution deal. I would imagine them more going down the path of like Amazon.com.
Yeah, direct to consumer.
Direct to the consumer, next day shipping. Like I could see something like that happening. So it's a bit of scary and sad news. I'm really worried for local card shops. I think this is going to be tough. eBay, I think, should be really scared. If Fanatics executes this properly, and they have the money and the time to execute it properly, I think eBay is in trouble, and I also think PSA might be in trouble here because, like they have the ability to start from scratch, and I think that's the big problem with these established companies like PSA and BGS is they can't go backwards, right? Like people always ask, PSA, why don't you create a 9.5? I'm sure they would love to, but they can't because what's going to happen to all the 9s that they graded in the past? Do people resubmit it and, get new 9.5s or whatever? It's just hard for PSA to change things up. And we talked about it last week about how these companies are going to try to get AI involved. It's really complicated because they have such a big history and all of these cards already graded. But Fanatics, if they execute properly, I think they have a huge opportunity to really put a dent in both the financing, buying, selling space, and also the grading space. So I think everybody outside of the Fanatics company should be pretty worried.
And you know what, like, for local card stores, this is what I'll say. It's like, I think they will definitely get affected. I think the whole model, like I said, like John said, in terms of the whole Amazon model, the direct to consumer, you cutting out the middleman, you kind of don't need the distribution anymore because of the digital world we live in, right? And but with that said, I think people are smart. People learn to pivot, and they create income in different ways that will keep them afloat now, because at the end of the day, this is a growing industry, and a lot of local card stores, their value is based on their, inventory essentially. And, that basically is what floats them now. And they have other ways, such as breaking, for instance. They have other ways of making money. Because Fanatics might, be, let's just say they're the only way you could get direct product from, and then that's exactly what's going to happen in the secondary market, right? It's just going to be a resale market, and that's what card stores are doing anyway. Sometimes, the allocation of products that they try to get, especially in basketball, like sometimes Will at Dolly's, always says, his allocation sometimes he gets none, right? So like. You just don't know anymore, and it's getting worse and worse. And that's with Topps and Panini, right? So it's like picture when some a brand like Fanatics goes, right? What's the purpose of a local card store to them, right? At the end of the day, I think that local card store is going to be different by definition than what we are used to and what we've grown up to. But I also think they're going to be smart about it and pivot, like offer different services like grading and whatnot, right? So
That's a great point.
I was going to say exactly that, Hyung. Like, the breaking thing came right to my mind right away, that local card shops can't be just about selling products,
right? Especially
if Fanatics is taking that avenue away. And we've already seen local card shops kind of adapt with breaking. We talked about it in the past in one of our episodes, where that's another revenue path for them. And you just mentioned grading, group submissions. That could be another way to make money. And I think I like that Amazon analogy, because local card shops then are like those bricks and mortar bookstores where, a lot of them have closed down, but the ones that are still existing, it's not about the books, it's about the experience, right? Where I can get coffee and relax, read some magazines, buy some books if I'm there and, enjoying the time there. So local card shops, they got to make it almost about the experience, like have trade nights, or, have... I
was just going to say that,
have like local breaks. And then, you can sell singles, and you create a community within the places you live. Like, there are definitely ways local card shops could be still a value for collectors.
Right.
So they'll definitely have to pivot and change, but I don't think it'll be the demise of all of them, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned, Johnny, the PSA aspect, the grading aspect that Fanatics is looking to potentially do as well. And you thought PSA would be potentially in trouble because they can't start all over like Fanatics will. Hyung, do you have any opinion on how that might impact companies like PSA, BGS, even SGC?
Like I said, for me, it's, if I were Fanatics, I'd buy them all. Like, and you know what? Keep them as is, because some people, like, why disrupt the market that's all they provide their own kind of, brand. And like I said, it's 5 years too, right? We don't know how the industry is going to look, but I do know that a PSA 10 price and a difference between a PSA 9 shouldn't be determined that much based on someone's opinion. And like I say that because it's like, think about that. Like, some cards are 6 figures, 7 figures, PSA 10, and a PSA 9 is like 30% that price or 40%. And to me, it's just, it's happening on multiple scales. So for me, I would like, somebody like Fanatics to kind of take a hold of that, or, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think it's going to definitely change. But I think also a brand like PSA and Beckett, they have such a strong history that I think you can't, you're going to always have certain slabs that are iconic that are in the PSA slab, right? So it's one of those things where I think it's potentially a perfect marriage where, they do work out a deal. Fanatics is that big, especially their trading card. Go start investing in AI. Buy out PSA, your HGAs, your SGCs, and control the whole damn market.
That'd be crazy. I think to that point, Fanatics could do that, but I think PSA. You mentioned there's 5 years until Fanatics really takes over, and now that PSA kind of knows what the game plan is or what Fanatics is looking to do, I think it's time to take offense for PSA. Like, they got to start to explore AI technology, because
absolutely,
I'm sure Fanatics is looking into that, right? And I was sharing with you guys off air, like I think the PSA brand is strong enough now to hold off the competition, as long as they don't rest on their laurels right now. You know what I mean?
Right,
they got to really start to plan ahead. And by the time Fanatics is ready, PSA can say, actually, we have AI technology that, that we can use to grade cards more fair, more quick, and just build on top of their brand and, kind of stay competitive in that sense.
Right.
And I guess Beckett could do the same because they have a history as well. But the other thing is too, I wouldn't discount the power of the brand. Fanatics could come out with something that's really great, but because it's new, people are gonna say, nah.
Yeah,
I don't like the
I'm not
Fanatics
buying
slab,
it. Yeah, I ain't buying it.
Right?
Yeah,
and so it's not gonna be that easy. Fanatics, there's still gonna be buy-in from the collectors.
Right.
That the Fanatics slab is worth this much. Like SGC, for instance, right? Not a lot of people were into it until they found the opportunity when PSA and BGS shut down most of their services, and then all of a sudden SGC started to provide a service that was quick, and the slabs looked fine, and now there's a threshold that they met where enough people have it at shows and are selling it and have increasing value when they're slabbed in SGC, that people are willing to buy those cards.
Right.
So you got to work at building that brand. Fanatics has to really work at building the brand on the grading front. So a lot of things can happen. In 5 years, that's a lot of time.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I feel like they can do it. The Fanatics brand already is fairly strong. It's not obviously strong in the sports card scene, but people know of it in the memorabilia scene. And I think when it comes time and they execute properly, I don't think it'll be too difficult to get adoption. These guys they're not stupid. They can find the quickest way to get people to hop on board. I don't know, something as easy as, $100 for 20 submissions on your first one, or something ridiculous. Just kind of like how McDonald's was trying to get customers to adopt their coffee. All they did was literally every Tuesday, free coffee.
And when you're very well funded, you can
exactly. You can do
easily.
Anything you want to get people to adopt.
Absolutely.
And
fair point.
I could see it happening pretty quickly. So that's why I think in my gut, I'm like, oh man, I really think PSA should be a bit scared here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, all speculation, but still, it's fun to chatter about it.
For sure. Is there any other areas do you think that Fanatics can really take over within the hobby?
Well, I
think you mentioned. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, if they execute this whole one-stop shop thing, make physical sports cards almost like an NFT marketplace, man, I think that would be crazy. That'd be huge for a lot of people, because there's already people in sports cards that are strictly in it for the money, investor only. They don't really collect anything for the PC. So I think this is going to take the sports card investor scene to the next level.
You think consigners will be impacted? Like, even like Golden?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like if they take over that financing scene, like the buying and selling, like ComC, MySlabs, I think all those guys, this could spell a bit of trouble for everybody.
Yeah, because I know Golden just got into the storage of graded cards game as well, right? Like competing really against PWCC because they had been offering that as well in their vault.
Right.
So it's interesting to see how the hobby evolves. Like, even when we got back into it, like 2, 3, 4 short years ago, man, the business has changed a lot. Like different offshoots, you know what I mean? Like storage wasn't a thing.
I think that's what you'll always see is like people pivot. Golden auction wasn't golden auction. When they even 2-3 years ago, what they were doing, right? They changed, they pivot, and everybody who has any sense of business or an urge to grow, or follow or create the future in this industry, they're gonna have to pivot, right? And I think, and like you said, in a growing industry, there's so many people that didn't exist a couple years ago, and all of a sudden they're Jeff Wilson. Here comes Jeff Wilson, who totally changed the course of his life and other people's life as well, right? So it's like as time goes on, we'll only discuss this through our podcast and see how this all transpires, and we'll look back 5 years and we're like, what were we thinking? This is totally not the way it's unfolded.
5 years later, Fanatics is out of business by another competitor that we never saw coming.
Exactly.
All right, yeah, I guess the only thing that we can do is just really wait. Like, it's a lot of time, but I'm sure even before the 5 years is up, the hobby's going to definitely evolve in so many different ways. So it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
And as collectors, we'll have to pivot too. Like, what do we, where do we collect? What do we collect? How do we make good investments? All these things are questions we need to ask ourselves too along the way.
Right. For sure.
Let's move on to our next segment then. And this is a new one we're calling Tricks of the Trade. Now, this is essentially where we aim to provide 1 or 2 useful tricks or really tips that might be useful for collectors to know. It could really be anything like how to find better sports card deals, or even which player to target in the off season to get the best ROI. Anything that's related to the hobby. Okay, so I can start things off for this segment. And my tip is a simple one. And it's just one way of finding good sports card deals on eBay, which is that when you do find a good deal on eBay, when you find that good deal searching for whatever card, especially if it's a bin offer, I look through the other cards of that seller that I just bought that card from to see if there are any other cards he or she has listed for really good prices. They could be looking to offload a bunch of their cards, and we might not see them in our regular searches because we're not looking for those specific cards. But it's like garage sale. When you look through stuff and you see things that like, oh, I never even thought of this, but this is really cool.
Just add that to the pop, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And like you see that card and you're like, oh, this will be a great investment. Like I didn't think about it before, but it's at a really good price. The seller is more than fair. So I always look to see what other cards that seller has, especially if I feel like I got a really good deal on the initial card that I just bought from. One simple tip that you guys can do to see if you can get other good deals.
Yeah,
absolutely. I use that. Yeah, I use that on my purchases a couple times where I made a deal on a couple cards for cheaper than I would have paid just by messaging him. I went through his stash and he had another card that I wanted, and he cut me a deal and shipped it together. So it definitely, and you're Clark, you're an upseller's dream.
I agree with that.
All right. That's a good one though. Yeah. I'll share mine with you guys all. I'm gonna talk a little bit about like having a seasonal approach. And when I say about seasonal approach is look at it from a yearly perspective and see where the dips and spikes are. Your essential dips are, going to happen in different periods of times for different sports. So for instance, baseball, your dips are it's going to happen soon. It's happening now. You're seeing prices in conjunction, obviously, with PSA releasing all their slabs and grading all their slabs. You're going to see a huge dip within the next 2-3 months. And I think purchasing at the dips, obviously, if you're trying to get into like a bigger card, a bigger name such as like Juan Soto, Vladdy, the Otanis of the world, cards that are, so expensive during the spikes, during the season, the peak seasons in the summer. Those are the ones you kind of want to just kind of monitor. And then it's the same sequence as basketball. When basketball starts getting really hot in November, December. By then, you don't want to be loading up on basketball because you're technically buying into the hype. The price is baked into that hype, right? So essentially, basketball is going to do the same thing, taper off into January, February with Super Bowl, and then baseball starts picking up, right? So that's when buying and selling at basically dips and spikes, I think, is a good thing to practice, and seeing it as a yearly thing. A lot of people like to complement sports such as basketball and baseball, for instance, because it runs into 2 seasons. So a lot of people will start unloading their baseball right now and start buying up basketball before the season starts. So if you believe in a player, like in basketball, that's why we talked about Trae Young a lot, or guys like that, where he's a buy right now. He's only a buy right now because nobody cares about Trae Young, is because in the middle of August, nobody cares about basketball, right? And they're focused on who's going to make the playoff run in baseball, and that's the way the hobby kind of worked before. I see it after the whole COVID year. It's kind of doing the same thing. It's like, and that's just shows you, when this is the proof that marketing, runs our whole world, right? It's as soon as it becomes relevant in our society, right? This is where things start. You have more buyers, you have more market players, right? So that's the time when you want to, take the volatility into play and, buy low, sell high.
Yeah, for sure. I like that advice because, when we started the podcast, when the hobby was going through an insane hot streak,
right?
We were saying there is no off season,
right? Exactly.
There are no dips. Like, people are just buying all the time. But now that everything's settled down, we've seen it settle down, and you're 100% right. Like, you start to see those patterns reemerge from what it was before the insane hype of the hobby,
right?
Like those dips and those peaks. Based on where the sports are in their particular season. So definitely look for those again.
Nice. Yeah, so mine is it's a bit general too, but I love to follow the investor mantra, profits are in the purchase. Hyung and I always talk about it. And I believe that 100%. I think if you're in this hobby trying to make some money, I think you have to do your research and you can't be lazy. I know when I talk to some people, they're like, I don't have time to do that. Or I don't, I can't be bothered to check this or check that. If you're going to really invest your hard-earned dollars into either collecting a PC or investing for the purpose of making money, it's so important to do your research, man. It can start as simple as taking advantage of any resource that's out there. Like, go download the Card Ladder app, go download PSA certification app, go look at 130point.com for every comp before you purchase, right? And I think as you do your research and you're not lazy about it and you do your homework, that's when those opportunities or understanding, we talked about ratios and all that stuff. When you're well prepared and well armed with that kind of information, I think that's when you'll be set up for success. And I think you guys would all agree some of your best profits were made out of purchases that you really did your research on. You did your homework on the player, the situation of the market, everything, right? The
for sure,
all encompassing situation you knew, and you made a move on the card and you made some profits off of it. And we also could agree our greatest losses are from cards that we made doing no research, super emotional buy, like we all have those L's as well, right? So I think, even with doing research, it's not like it's a foolproof plan. But I think if you really, don't want to lose in this investor scene, like you cannot be lazy. And I think that goes with any, that's goes with anything in life. Like if you want to be good at anything, it's your job, being a parent, whatever, like you can't be lazy about it, right? Like you got to really put your 100% effort into whatever you're trying to accomplish, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good life advice, good collector advice. But I like, I think for sure with better research, you're going to win more times than not. Like, and with better research too, like you could be more confident in the purchases you make, right? Like, it wouldn't be so crazy to buy lots of whatever card because you've done your research and you think, it's going to really pay out.
Right. And that, you know what, to further that point, Clark, like I think people don't realize like you could make money off of like a card that the athlete has never even played that single game yet, just by doing your research.
Yeah.
You buy at the right time and then you sell at the right time. And like the Acuna, like an Acuna, for instance, bought in the off season, sold during the peak season because you did your research, you had a game plan, right? And it was essentially based off of you just doing your due diligence at the end of the day, right? You were prepared for that and you deserve that. And most people, I think, get burnt by that. They just expect the results because, they put their money and they have it and they have no clue. They don't even watch the sport. They expect it. I don't think that's a bad move if you're just like locking it up in the safe and forgetting about it in 10 years.
Sure.
Right? Because you're not really day trading. But I think a lot of people, just like John said, like, they don't do their work. They get lazy. They just expect the returns. They want quick money and for the quick flip. But, we all know that, you'll become the bag holder more times than not when you're chasing based off emotion.
Yeah.
Or you're chasing based off what everyone else is buying and you have no idea who that person is or how good that person is, right?
Absolutely. And they're like, sucker.
Keston.
He was a perfect example too. You know what? Like, okay, and that's the thing. It's like it all, like Keston Herro is a perfect example. He went from like no hobby love to like, whoa, is this guy the next like dude?
Right.
Because he hit like 313 his first. He hit like 20 home runs and like 300 at bats. Everybody's like, yo, this guy's the real dude. This guy's the real dude. That off season, Keston's prices went through the roof because he had a great spring training or whatever. Right. And, and if you sold it at that time, you probably did well. But then, as people talk about Keston, people don't do their research and then they fall for that. They're the ones holding the bag, right? So, Keston.
Yeah, that's me. That's me right here.
Man. You know what? He could still hit. I still want him to turn it around because so many people are represented based on his card prices, right? That's how we look at athletes now. But like to me, he's hardworking. He's such he's a stud. He's a freaking MLB player. He works his butt off. So no hatred there, just from an investment standpoint. Just leaving that disclaimer.
I'm just gonna add, like we've all been there, man. Like even myself, where the hype is so big, you're like, I'm just gonna get one or two of these guys,
Yeah, just in case. Just in case.
It's like crypto, just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah, good advice though. I think, I hope anyone listening to this episode, got some value out of that, and we'll make this a reoccurring segment because I think it's really useful as we learn new tricks and tips while we're in the hobby. We'll definitely share with you guys. All right, so with that, let's end the show with our regular Pick One segment. This week, it's the Hot Takes edition. We'll alternate between our Hot Takes edition versus a regular edition. And for those who are listening for the first time, the Hot Takes edition of our Pick One segment is when we give two hot takes. And we each choose which one is likelier to happen and what might the hobby implications be. So who wants to go first with their two hot takes to debate?
I'll lead us off
okay.
with our first Hot Takes edition. I might ruffle some feathers, but I see this a lot actually on the forums. I see both sides, that's why, and I like to bring it up because I think our audience kind of sees both sides of it too. They're gonna probably debate on both sides, but HGA is better than SGC in terms of grading. Okay, so that's my first hot take, and I'm going to pair that up with BGS is better than PSA. Okay, wow. So would you guys rather go say HGA is a better grading company than SGC? So investment-wise, slab-wise, better in company that you guys say, okay, this is a better company, or BGS is better than PSA?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. But I think I'm already a little biased, even based on what you sent us this morning, Hyung, that Wayne Gretzky card. I don't know if other people have seen it, but a Wayne Gretzky, I think, was it a OPG?
Yeah, it was
his
OPG.
Iconic rookie card was graded by HGA. I don't know if it's real or if it's fake, but
it was deemed fake, or it was fake, and they graded it, and that's another concern, right? It's like. But then
HGA, right?
Yeah, which is a whole can of worms, right? We're talking about PSA. Then are they innocent, right? Are they innocent for what they've done? Is BGS innocent in terms of all graded cards, right? So, but fair point. I hope that you take that today's conversation out of it. Okay, because I'm just basing it out of the hype of HGA because. I see a lot of people saying, you know what, HGA is pretty cool. Like for instance, they that custom slab that that was off centered, that was falling off, or a zebra, those animal prints that they do, tiger stripes or zebras with it, look pretty cool. So I was just looking at that perspective. But go ahead.
Okay, I won't factor in the Wayne Gretzky news this morning. So I think HGA is better than SGC. I think that's a super hot take. That's fire, right? So, and BGS over PSA, that's a pretty hot take.
That's a hot take too.
But honestly, I think there's parts of the hobby where I actually prefer BGS over PSA, baseball on-card autos. Right. I like the dual grades right beside each other. I like the look of the card itself with the 9.5 and 10 auto, or 10 looks pretty sweet. So there's instances already where I feel like BGS is better than PSA, in my opinion, in terms of look, in terms of personal preference. Whereas HGA, I know some guys in our group even love it or like it or don't mind it. I think it's too gimmicky, man. I'm not a fan of HGA at all, and I don't like the. Some people like that kind of the different looks of the different slabs. I like consistency in the slabs. So already HGA's ruffled my feathers a little bit, where SGC is a nice clean look. They got a gold label. Sure, that's the premium one. And then, PSA and BGS, they all have pretty much uniform looks. So the hot take that I think is better is I guess it's the BGS over PSA.
BGS is better than PSA. Yeah. All right.
We saw that coming. Johnny? We sasaw that coming from Clark.
Johnny is going to be interesting because I know how much you love PSA. I know you love PSA more, not even in the same conversation as than anything. So I know based on your ownership of PSA slabs.
Yes.
Right.
This will be interesting. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Okay, so when I first got back into the hobby and I purchased my first graded card, and it came to the mail, and I picked it up from the mailbox, and it was a PSA 10 Kawhi Leonard. First time ever holding a graded card. I was so underwhelmed by the light plastic case, because I'm used to, us old school guys, we're used to those old glass screw-ons and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So that was a part of me that immediately thought when I touched the BGS case, it was better because it's got that kind of heavy glass feel, and to me initially that felt more premium. But obviously as time goes on, you fall to the hype. You like what's the best, and PSA was the best, and all of a sudden I'm liking the more lightweight feel, and I'm like, yeah, PSA looks better. I don't like BGS at all, and I've totally drank the PSA Kool-Aid. I'm all PSA over BGS all day, every day. For HGA, when they first came out, looked like they really did their homework. They worked on custom slabs, which I thought was really cool. They knew that I think consumers liked PSA, but also liked the sort of heavy premium feel of the BGS slab. So they kind of went in between. It's like a similar size slab, a little bit heavier. So a lot of people, the initial reaction was like, oh, I kind of like the feel. The weight feels nice. They rounded the corners, because I know that was one knock on the BGS case, was people didn't like the sharp corner. They wanted to feel kind of that rounded corner. They rounded the corners, so it looked like they were really listening to consumer. I feel like they really screwed up following BGS grading with 9.5 as being I think that was such a stupid move. No, no offense to them. Like, you got to go with the 10. Like, that's what people want to see. If you have to call the 10, like, the actual 10, like a flawless 10, call it a diamond 10 or a 10 plus or a gold 10. Do that instead of the 9.5. I think that was a really bad move. But HGA also, like, the jury's been out now. I don't know how long have they been around now? 6 months?
They've been, maybe longer.
Yeah, it's 6 months to a year. Yeah, so like, things have gotten out. I think a lot of people have noticed a bit of grading issues, inconsistencies with the hybrid approach, whether it's being graded by an AI machine or human. Some people are saying, oh, I don't know, like, why was this a 9 and why was this like a gem 10, right? They look exactly the same. The whole Wayne Gretzky issue with fake cards. And I don't know if you guys saw recently, but somebody posted on one of their IG accounts, they were flexing the HGA case, like basically torquing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it literally just snapped apart. And you would think that'd be like a one-off, like isolated case. Well, other people saw the video and tried it on theirs. And now you got a whole bunch of videos of people literally being able to cleanly rip apart the HGA case, like in half. Wow. You can basically take it out, remove the card, and then crazy glue it back on like perfectly. It's
right.
It's really messed up. So I think HGA in the past little while has really taken a hit. So when I really look at this, I think both are huge hot takes. I don't think the likelihood of either is going to happen. But of the two, because of HGA's all this criticism that they're taking, I think for a company that just started off, I think that is, like getting close to nail in the coffin. So I'm gonna say BGS, but also because I don't think BGS is ever going to be greater than PSA, but I think there is a chance just by the fact that BGS could be bought out. Like, I don't see PSA being bought out because of Collector Universe, but I could see BGS being bought out by Fanatics or whoever, and them, the newer company, doing a better job than what BGS was able to handle. So because of those reasons, I'm of the two, I think the BGS has the better likelihood of the low percentage to be better.
Fair enough. And you know what? Like, and I only say that because I'm part of a HGA Facebook group, so I know there's a huge fan base of HGA slabs. Like, there's a lot of following, and also I know that a lot of people don't take SGC that seriously. Right. As a grading company as well, right? So for me, I always wanted to do an HGA submission to kind of see for myself before I dog any company, because I've heard a lot of positives as well, right? So, and I think SGC is doing a phenomenal job, and I know it was a super hot take, but I do know that that's the conversation that's going on in Facebook, like, conversation, Facebook world, right? So I thought that was a good comparison. And personally, for me, BGS, I love my PSA 10s, but I think BGS is so underrated just in general. Like, I think one of the most underrated card is a True Gem BGS or True Gem Plus. Sure. Like, so underrated, right? And for me, it's like, I personally like BGS 10s as well, so I like the slabs. So it's an easy one for me. BGS, in my opinion, in some ways are. And I hope that one day, like you said, John, that maybe a better brand that's financed picks up BGS and can take that. Because I still love the Beckett. I want a Beckett mailed to me every day. I'll read it. I'll keep it in the bathroom. I guarantee it would be the most read book in the bathroom, right? So, I'm going BGS as well. Yeah.
Sweep. And come on, the black label.
Yeah, black labels are sweet. Yeah, but don't buy the grade, buy the card, right? As they say.
True. That's a great point, though. Like, we talked about Fanatics and their supposed plan to get into grading, And we always talk about SUC. The last 5 weeks we've been shouting about SUC. Hyung, you mentioned you think BGS is very underrated. I will agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with loading up on BGS gems at a great price and loading up on SGC 10s, because
for sure,
like we just talked about, we don't know what the landscape is in the next 3 to 5 years. What if Fanatics takes over? What if they're able to slay the giant that is PSA, and their slabs start being worth 80, 90, almost 100% of PSA or more, and then they offer you crazy grading fees. They give you 20 grades for $100. Like, we could literally take all of our True Gem BGSs that we got for on the cheap. We got to take all our 10s SEC 10s that we loaded up, crack them all out, and resubmit them in 3 years to a company that is, I don't know, better than PSA. We really don't know what's about to happen.
We don't know. We won't know. Yeah.
Right. So if I think, kind of going back to the long-term strategy, if you're out there and you think SGC or BGS is underrated, and it's something of a long-term hold, like you're locking it in the safe, I don't think it's a bad play, man, because you don't know how this grading landscape is going to come out in 5 years, right? It could totally come out, because that's what people say, right? Like, you buy the card, not the grade, right? So
yeah.
Good point. All right, I'll go next.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick on a favorite of ours, but it's Tyler Herro is out of the league in 5 years, or Cody Bellinger is out of the league in 5 years.
Ooh, this hurts. Oh man. Jeez. All right, I'll answer that because I'm a Herro fan. So, and you know what? I come from a baseball background, so for me, Bellinger. I mean, let's face it, he's a stud. Like, he is the dude. He was the dude. He is the dude. He's had a terrible last 2 seasons.
Yep.
For me, I'm kind of concerned from a baseball standpoint. You got to remember, baseball is a game of failure, and when I say game of failure, a Hall of Famer hits, is successful 30% of the time, right?
Right.
That's a game of failure, and where he's at, everything is mental, right? So for me, it's tough to rebound from stuff like this. It's not like it's almost like the yips. I don't know if you guys know what the yips are. It's I remember like Chuck Knobloch had it. I remember that Chuck Knobloch, Louis Soho, I think, had it too. But I'm throwing out these names where they couldn't throw to somebody 5 feet away. They would throw the ball away because it's all mental, right? So I feel like that's kind of, it's scary, but like that might be where Bellinger is, kind of like where Keston was, right? So I see, just from a baseball standpoint, that it could highly happen to Bellinger a lot more. And me being a Herro fan and a Herro collector, I'm going to say, it's Bellinger for me that's out of the league in 5 years, and Herro's going to be staying.
Wow.
Oh, I really thought I could have got Hyung out of Herro, but damn.
Now we know how much Hyung loves Herro, man.
I just think he's cheap.
Me too.
Okay. This one's an easy one. Herro's going to be out of the league in 3 years. I think basketball, there's a lot more distractions. Like, it's really based on the individual in basketball. And if you can't handle the pressure, oh man, like, things can go south real quick. And we've already seen Herro kind of buckle under the pressure a little bit, not to the extent where he's in danger of being kicked off the team, but his off the court stuff and like, we're all hoping that he rebounds, of course, this coming season. But basketball is like, I think players are under more intense pressure, and these new guys coming up, they're the celebrity status that's just thrust upon them. It's a lot of pressure. So, and basketball's tough too, right? Like, it's tough to stay in the league. There's only like a few hundred spots in the league for you to play, and it's not, if you don't perform within the 82 game season, like, there's always a replacement real quick, right? So, and I know baseball is similar in that sense, but I feel like you have a longer leash with the longer season. And I'm a big Bellinger fan. I think for me, it's health related, which is what I'm hoping. Like, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I know this because he's on my fantasy team this year. I've been putting him on the IL this whole half the season at least, it feels like. And I think he just got activated today, so he's in my lineup. But
What's
I
he
think,
hitting?
He's awful, man. He's like the
horrible,
worst batter in baseball.
Like,
luckily,
worse than Keston last year or earlier this year?
I think he's worse.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
I'm telling you, man.
This
is very concerning. Clark, you got to really see the falter here as a 25-year-old.
He's batting like 150.
Okay, anyways,
like
yeah, I just
runs.
seen it on Baseball Reference, man.
It's bad.
That breaks my heart because Bellinger is a stud. Was a stud.
But
MVP rookie of the year. But go
listen,
on.
I'm still attributing it to physical health. Like, he's, that could get into your head too, right? Like, if you get injured, you swing a little bit differently, you run a little differently, you do everything a little differently. So I want to see, like, him come back to full health next season, hopefully, and him pick up where he was. I believe he was NL Rookie of the Year, right? NL Rookie of the Year when he came up.
Rookie of the Year and AL MVP, NL MVP.
Right. So yeah. I think he still has that high floor for me if he's completely healthy. So I'm not panicking just yet. I think Bellinger can make a comeback, and therefore he'll still be in the league. He'll still be with the dominating LA Dodgers. So
nice.
That's my pick.
Nice. I think this proves, the easy answer here for the general public would be Herro, because I think, right. he's newer, he's younger. The word bust is being kind of like thrown out a lot. And I think people are unjustly being way too tough on Herro. Like, he still played a good season. Was he playoff Tyler Herro? Absolutely not. He was far from it. Did he take giant leaps from his previous year? No, he didn't. But he was still a very, very solid player.
Sure.
Obviously people thought he was going to stay in a starting role, and he went from the starting role to a bench role, which was pretty disappointing. But not enough for him to be outside of like the top 100 players in NBA. Like, he's still going to have a solid role in the NBA. So of the two, obviously they're both super hot takes, but I'm with Hyung. Like, I think I've never been a huge Bellinger fan, and I'm not like I don't know baseball like Hyung knows baseball, but I never liked the fact that Bellinger's an MVP one season, and then he's not so great of a player the next season, and then he's all of a sudden MVP again, and then he's not so great of a player. And then this year, being one of the worst batters in baseball and having the yips on the field and all that stuff, that I'm with Hyung in saying that I think that's really, really concerning to see. And this is not even the first year. Like, last year, he wasn't good last year either, and this year was even worse. So I'm seeing very much Keston-like patterns. So
it's very similar, actually.
Yeah, so I'm very much more on the Bellinger camp than I am Herro. So I pick Bellinger.
How dare you guys compare Bellinger to Keston? That's another hot take, man.
I said similar pattern.
Yeah.
I didn't say similar player.
Wow. That is incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by both your choices, but I understand it too at the same time.
Yeah. No, for me, too, it's like I've had the opportunity to invest in both, and based on where prices were, like I only say it because that's what I did, right? And it's not saying that I'm right by no means,
right.
But I just felt like that was the right move for me at the time, especially when Bellinger was a lot higher. Like, his prices were a lot higher than they are now today. Like, they weren't high in the first place, but they just tanked, right? So for me, I just see, if Tyler Herro could figure it out, I think you're gonna have a fun player. Especially interesting to see Kyle Lowry, I guess, take that too, right? So it'll be impacting on Tyler. So hopefully, he's 20 years old. Remember. He's still 20 years old. He has 2 seasons on the belt. He has one NBA final experience. He has the swag that we like. So I'm
for sure.
I'm still bullish on him. So
yeah.
Just had to throw that in.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, that's a great question. Like, are you right now buying Herro, or are you buying Bellinger? Right, that could also kind of tell you where you are with this question.
True. Good one. I like it. All right, I'll end off with my pick one. And my first hot take is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be an MVP in the leagues at some point in his career versus Michael Porter Jr. will be an MVP some point in his career. And I picked those two because if you heard, MPJ just signed a contract extension. I think it was 5-year, 173 million.
I didn't see
it's
that.
A big
Holy
money,
cow.
big deal. Yeah.
And Shai Gill just signed a contract extension before that for, I think, about the same amount, really, just the max. So those guys are getting good money over the next 5 years. I think bonuses if they make the All-Star or all the other
incentive packages, right?
Right, exactly, incentive packages. So obviously their teams, respective teams, think they're the future. They're both very young, got promising futures ahead of them. But at the same time, I see, flaws in both their games, right? Mm-hmm. High expectations. Maybe neither of them met those expectations yet, but their teams still believe in them. And Michael Porter Jr. also has those injury issues, but he performed well in the playoffs. He definitely has shown flashes of mega potential. And Shai Gilgeous has been steady for the OKC.
Yeah.
So want to get your thoughts in terms of. Yeah, I guess this question will also answer who would you believe in as a long-term investment, right?
Right.
If you think they're going to win MVP at one point.
I think for me, I think I know John's answer, but
I think so too.
But yeah, I think the way you phrase that last sentence is perfect. It's like, who are you buying at the end of the day in terms of risk too as well, right? So for me, it's tough because you have SGA. He's like the vanilla. You know what you're gonna get. He's smooth sailing. He's gonna be, accomplish things in his career. But I don't see him being that MVP type player. However, I could definitely see MPJ being that type of MVP player if he pans out, he stays healthy. And to me, that's today, like that contract. That's a big step for an organization to have faith in a guy like MPJ with his previous history, his medical history and stuff. But you can't give up on a guy that's like still young and 7 foot, like just hungry as well, right? So I think MPJ will win an MVP over SGA in the respective career. And I think it goes with the same question of investing. I think you're going to have a lot more risk with MPJ, but a lot more reward with MPJ. It's going to be a lot safer with SGA for long term, but I think in terms of if you want that volatility, just for my man Will.
Nice.
All right. I think you guys know my answer, but when you look back at the draft, they both came out of the same draft. MPJ was injured in his final year of college, so people had to sort of kind of blindly draft him. I think if he had played that year, there was a good chance that he would be drafted a lot higher. I think it's easy to say that MPJ, at both of their potentials and both of their skill sets, MPJ has the higher ceiling. But I have to stick with my man SGA here. I think it's Shai Gilgeous, and I think he is still as popular as he is. Even Hyung saying the word vanilla, I think that really shows the market still underrates SGA. I think he very much falls under the radar. I think his style of game, he's super slick. He commands the ball. I think when you look at the two players and how they command the ball and their presence on the court, I think it's no question Shai Gilgeous over MPJ. MPJ is like a natural scorer. He's got that like natural ability, but in terms of that confidence, swagger, I see it big time in SGA. And I'll even go as far as to say when you look back in a number of in like 10 years, you could even say like SGA over Trae Young. That's a hot take too, but I really believe that much that people are really underrating like how good SGA could become. So this one's easy for me. It's SGA MVP.
Okay. How about if SGA was an American?
There's no question that there's a bit of Canadian bias, and or if MPJ was a Canadian. But even like, now that I've got to really study both guys, because I own both rookie cards, and I own like pretty good numbered rookie cards. So I'm invested in both, and I believe in both as both short term and long term plays. But now that I've watched both, I think SGA is supremely like, undervalued and, like slightly disrespected amongst the rookie class. And I think everybody just sees MPJ as just sky high rocket potential, but people are sleeping on Shai Gilgeous, in my opinion.
You know what? I agree with you that people are sleeping on SGA. Like I also had both the rookie cards. Funny enough, I sold both of them because I kind of got scared off. Like, am I going to make a good return, as a better return than it is now? So, but I'm looking to get back in. And if I'm going to get back in, I'm going back with MPJ. Because just like Hyung mentioned, definitely high risk, but it's high reward as well. And, with the Nuggets team, they can win a championship.
We're talking MVP. That's a high standard. I just don't think SGA can get there. Like that. That's asking for a lot.
It is.
You need the ceiling type player. You need the ceiling type player.
And like I've heard comparisons of MPJ with KD, like just with his like height and the abilities that he has. Right. Like of course he doesn't compare to KD right now, but with like a little more experience. Using his height, using his agility, using his speed and his ball handling, if he could put it all together over the course of the next few years, like he could get up there and be at the MVP status, MVP level. So MPJ for me.
Nice.
All right, great show, guys. I think that's a great place to wrap. Thanks again to all our listeners and subscribers. If it's your first time listening, you haven't subscribed yet, we appreciate if you did, so you can join us every Tuesday with a brand new episode. So until next week then, take care everyone. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.